Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into the story of Build-A-Bear Workshop.
Yeah, and specifically the leader who, well, really steered it from a major crisis to, frankly, a huge comeback.
Exactly. We're talking about CEO Sharon Price John, how she took over this, struggling retail giant.
And didn't just save it, but really transformed it for today's world.
So if you've ever faced a big professional challenge, maybe a business downturn, or you just find stories of resilience and smart strategy fascinating, this deep dive is definitely for you.
We're going to unpack the key moves, the mindset behind it all.
And hopefully offer some insights you can maybe apply yourself.
It's quite the example of business adaptation. So June 2013, that's when Sharon Price John steps in as CEO.
And things were not looking good, right?
Not at all. Build-A-Bear was facing some serious headwinds. You had declining mall traffic, which was, their bread and butter.
Right. The whole model was based on malls.
Exactly. And then the huge shift towards online shopping. Plus, significant financial losses. I mean, over $48 million pre-tax loss in 2012 alone.
Wow.
Yeah. Sales per square foot were down. A lot of their stores were actually unprofitable.
So investor confidence must have been
rock bottom, basically. Yeah. So our mission here is to figure out how one leader tackled all these huge challenges.
Okay, so before we get into the turnaround itself, let's talk about Sharon Price John's background. Because it's pretty varied, isn't it?
It really is. And that diversity of experience seems key. It wasn't a straight shot to the top.
No. She actually started out in customer service at McDonald's, learning the basics, efficiency, dealing with customers.
Foundational stuff. Then she moved into advertising. Big agencies like DDB Worldwide, Bates USA.
Right, handling big accounts, Hershey's, Snickers, M&Ms. So client management communication skills honed right there.
Absolutely. Those skills, managing relationships, getting ideas across clearly, they're crucial for any leader, especially when you need to rally the troops for change.
Makes sense. Then she got her MBA, added that business framework.
Yep, and then jumped into the toy industry. First Mattel, she was director of European marketing based in Paris. So international perspective early on.
Ah, interesting. And after that?
VP of international marketing at Disney Licensing. So think cross-cultural campaigns, global partnerships.
Okay, so you can already see the seeds of what she later did with licensing at Build-A-Bear.
Totally. Working at a powerhouse like Disney, figuring out global markets, brand collaborations, that must have given her a real playbook for partnerships.
Now, here's a really interesting bit. Speaks to her resilience, I think. In 2000, she founded her own company, Checkerboard Toys.
Right. Took that entrepreneurial leap.
But then 9/11 happened, and the company took a massive hit. Huge order cancellations for their Dawn doll line led to a $49 million loss.
Oof. Yeah, that must have been incredibly tough.
But that kind of experience.
It teaches you things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Crisis management, how to pivot when things go sideways, just sheer grit. Those tough times often forge the strongest leaders.
Definitely shows resilience. So after that, she lands at Hasbro. Spent quite a while there, 2002 to 2009.
Yeah, leading first the U.S. toy division, then the global preschool unit. Big roles.
And she did some major things there, like relaunching Nerf successfully.
Which is huge.
And overseeing massive brands, My Little Pony, Transformers, Play-Doh.
So that shows she could not just manage, but actually revitalize established brands within a big company structure. Real innovation shops there.
Okay, and one more stop before Build-A-Bear. President of Stride Right Children's Group, 2010 to 2013.
Right, and there her focus was again on revitalization, integrating product creation, marketing, distribution, even international franchising.
So she already had a track record of turning things around, not just managing, but fixing.
Exactly. So you see how all these different pieces, customer service, advertising, MBA, international marketing, toy industry leadership, even that tough entrepreneurial experience, it all kind of came together.
A unique toolkit for the Build-A-Bear challenge.
Precisely. It wasn't just one skill, it was this blend that equipped her.
Okay, so armed with that background, let's really dig into the mess she inherited at Build-A-Bear in 2013. We touched on it, but let's get specific.
Yeah, the situation was pretty critical. That declining mall traffic, like we said, was a fundamental threat to a business built entirely around that physical mall experience.
Their whole experiential model, which was unique, felt a bit dated. Stuck in the mall world as consumers moved online.
Exactly. And that shift online was huge. They hadn't really kept pace with where people were actually spending their time and, their money.
And the numbers just hammer it home. That $48 million pre-tax loss in 2012.
It wasn't just a one-off bad year. It showed a pattern. And the sales per square foot dropping so sharply from $445 in 2008 down to $350 by 2012.
That clearly shows the stores themselves were becoming less productive. People weren't spending as much when they did come in.
Right. And then finding out that roughly 22% of their stores were actually losing money, that's a huge drain.
Yeah, that points to problems with maybe locations or how the stores are run or both.
And all this, understandably, just tanked investor confidence. The stock price reflected that skepticism. Could they actually turn the ship around?
The challenges were big, and they were all interconnected. It needed a really comprehensive fix.
Which brings us to her response, this SPRK methodology she introduced.
Right, SPRK. Can you break that down for us? What do the letters stand for?
Sure. It's an acronym, a framework for the turnaround. S is for see it.
See it? Like have a vision.
Exactly. You have to first envision what success looks like. Create a clear picture of a revitalized Build-A-Bear. Without that vision, you're just, floundering.
Okay, S is see it. Then P.
P is for plan it. Makes sense, right? Once you have the vision, you need the roadmap. How do you actually get there? This is the strategy part, the steps, the resources.
Got it. Vision, plan. Next is R.
R stands for action it. This is critical. You need to implement the plan, execute it efficiently, but also with passion. Get people on board.
Vision, plan, action.
Yeah.
Makes sense. What's K?
K is for run it. This means you don't just launch the plan and walk away. You have to continuously measure progress, see what's working, what's not, and adjust. Be agile.
Okay, so it's ongoing. See it, plan it, action it, run it. And there's one more part.
Yes, the final, maybe most crucial element, keep the faith. It's about commitment, perseverance, believing in the journey, especially when you hit bumps in the road, which you inevitably will.
So SPRK plus keep the faith. It's a neat little framework.
Yeah, clear, memorable, actionable, something the whole company could get behind.
Okay, so using this SPRK approach, let's talk specifics. What were the big strategies? Starting with diversifying the business model, getting away from just malls.
Right. Recognizing that mall decline was probably permanent, they had to expand their reach. A huge part of this was seriously investing in e-commerce.
Not just a basic website, though.
No. They launched a whole new site, but the really clever bit was the Bear Builder 3D workshop.
Yes, the online tool where you could basically do the whole in-store thing virtually.
Exactly. Pick the bear, dress it, accessories, even hear the little virtual heartbeat. It brought that core personalization online.
That's smart. Translating the unique experience, not just selling bears online.
Right. And alongside that, they pushed mobile apps, games, alerts for new stuff, promotions, keeping people engaged on their phones.
And they'd already made their website mobile-friendly back in 2012, so they were thinking about mobile early, but this sounds like a much bigger, more integrated push under her.
Definitely accelerated. And they also brought digital into the stores. Things like digital kiosks, mobile point-of-sale systems.
Okay, so making the in-store experience smoother, more modern.
Yeah, and bridging that gap between online and offline. Personalizing things, faster checkouts, creating that seamless omni-channel experience everyone talks about.
Right, so it feels like one consistent brand whether you're on the app or in the shop.
That was the goal. Meet the customer wherever they are.
Makes sense. And another huge part of diversification was licensing, wasn't it?
Oh, massive. This was incredibly effective for pulling in new customers and, reminding older customers they existed.
The list is pretty impressive. Pokemon, Star Wars, Disney Frozen, Lion King.
Huge franchises with built-in fan bases. It brought totally new demographics into the Build-A-Bear world, plus hitting that nostalgia button hard for adults.
And it wasn't just movies and games, right? They did sports, too.
Yeah, the NFL partnership was smart. Team jerseys, logos. And they even had this exclusive deal with the Kansas City Chiefs, becoming partners with their mascot, Casey Wolf.
Wow, that's specific. Very targeted.
Exactly, connecting with passionate local fan bases.
And then Hello Kitty, Harry Potter. They really covered a lot of ground.
They did. It showed they understood the power of these established brands and the emotional connection people have.
It wasn't just about selling more bears. It was about staying relevant, tapping into what people already loved.
Precisely. Broadened the product line, kept the brand fresh and connected to pop culture, showed they could evolve beyond just the classic teddy.
Okay, so digital expansion, licensing. What else in terms of moving beyond malls? Did they try different kinds of physical locations?
Yes, absolutely. That was another key part of the diversification. They started looking at places like high-traffic tourist spots.
Makes sense. Go where the crowds are.
Right. And locations outside traditional malls. They experimented with seasonal pop-ups, new concept stores.
And didn't they do partnerships with other retailers? Like putting small shops inside bigger stores?
Yes, the shop-in-shop concept with places like Walmart and Macy's. A really strategic way to reach more people in places they already shop frequently.
Again, making the brand more accessible, less dependent on that shaky mall environment.
Exactly. So while they were reaching out in these new ways, they also had to deal with the existing stores, the physical footprint. That needed an overhaul, too.
Right. You can't just ignore the expensive mall leases.
No. So a big piece was renegotiating those leases, trying to get better terms, more flexibility, using the changing retail reality as leverage, basically.
Reducing those fixed costs must have freed up some cash.
Definitely. Gave them more breathing room financially. And alongside that, they made the tough call to close stores that just weren't performing.
How many did they close?
In 2019, they announced plans to close up to 30 locations over 2 years. It allowed them to focus resources on the stores that were doing well.
Optimizing the portfolio, as they say. Never easy, closing stores, but sometimes necessary for the overall health of the business.
It is. It's about putting your resources where they'll have the biggest impact.
And the money they saved from renegotiating leases and closing stores.
They didn't just pocket it, they reinvest it back into improving the customer experience in the remaining stores, and importantly, pouring more into those digital capabilities we talked about.
So it created this kind of positive cycle, optimize, save, reinvest in growth areas.
Exactly.
Then boom, 2020 hits. The pandemic, everything shuts down. How on earth did they handle that?
Well, this is where all that earlier investment in digital and omni-channel really paid off. They had the infrastructure to pivot and pivot fast.
So when the stores closed,
they ramped up online significantly. The big success story was the at-home bear building kits.
Okay, so people could still do the customizing online using that 3D tool.
Right, and then get the kit delivered straight to their door. It kept that core experience alive when the physical workshops were dark. Super smart.
That is clever. Kept the engagement going.
And they did other things, too, to stay connected with families stuck at home. They launched Workshop Wednesdays.
What was that?
A weekly online program. Had things like DIY crafts, coloring pages people could download, story time, games. Just trying to provide value and keep the brand top of mind during a really weird time.
That's good brand building. Offering something helpful, not just trying to sell stuff during a crisis.
Exactly. And where they could, they quickly set up contact-free pickup options. Order online, grab it safely from the store.
So adapting to safety protocols while still getting product to people who wanted it immediately.
Yep. It just showed incredible agility, really, leveraging what they'd already built to navigate a totally unforeseen crisis.
Okay, so we've seen the challenges, the SPRK strategy, the specific actions, digital licensing, real estate, the pandemic pivot. Let's talk results. Did it actually work financially?
Oh, the turnaround was financially quite dramatic. By fiscal year 2022, Build-A-Bear reported net income of $50.7 million.
$50 million? Didn't you say they lost nearly that much just a few years before?
Well, they had a $48 million pre-tax loss in 2012 and then a $23.4 million net loss in 2020 during the pandemic's peak impact. So going from that loss in 2020 to over $50 million profit in 2022.
That's staggering. Highest net income in their history, right?
Highest ever. It's a massive swing, really showing the impact of all those changes.
And revenue.
Annual revenue topped $467 million. Healthy growth, driven by those revitalized products, the licensing deals, and that smooth omni-channel experience they'd built.
And what about the investors? Did they start believing again?
The stock price tells that story. Their ticker, BBW, it just skyrocketed, up nearly 700% from the lows during the pandemic.
Wow, 700%.
Yeah. That signals a huge return of confidence from the market. They saw the improved financials, the stronger strategy. They believed in the future again.
Incredible numbers. So looking back at this whole transformation, what was it about Sharon Price John's leadership that made it happen? What were the key qualities?
Well, several things jump out. First, clearly, adaptability. A real willingness to embrace change, to see that the old mall model wasn't working and pivot hard.
And having that strategic vision, right? Being able to see it, as the SPRK model says.
Absolutely. Seeing that future state and mapping out how to get there. Plus, that customer focus seems central to everything.
Yeah, from the online experience to the Workshop Wednesdays during COVID, it always seemed to come back to the customer.
Exactly. And she wasn't afraid to make bold moves. Decisive action. Closing stores is tough. Investing heavily in digital takes guts.
Those investments in omnichannel and the smart licensing deals were clearly pivotal.
Game changers. And it seems like she also managed a cultural shift inside the company, getting everyone focused on connecting more deeply with customers, understanding their needs.
Her whole story is pretty inspiring, isn't it? Especially for other leaders or entrepreneurs facing tough times.
Definitely. It shows you can reimagine a business, you can navigate massive uncertainty if you have the right strategy and, well, the determination.
And her approach to crisis, not just cutting back, but using it as a spark for innovation.
Right. Seeing obstacles as opportunities to reinvent, to find better ways to deliver value. That resilience, going all the way back to her checkerboard toys days, it's a hallmark of effective leadership.
She's definitely seen as a role model now for that kind of resilient, values-driven leadership.
And rightly so. It's proof that even established brands can be turned around with clear vision and relentless execution.
Her journey really highlights some core lessons, doesn't it? Know your customer, embrace technology, be willing to adapt constantly.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, so let's quickly recap our deep dive. Sharon Price John's time at Build-A-Bear is just a fantastic case study. It shows the power of adapting, the need for clear strategic vision, and why bold action is crucial when you're up against it.
Yeah, her focus on the customer experience, jumping into digital, forging those smart partnerships, that's what turned a struggling retailer into the thriving, multi-channel brand we see now.
So as you're listening, maybe think about the challenges in your own world, your own work. Are there any big obstacles that could actually be opportunities for reinvention, maybe with some similar strategic thinking?
Is there a status quo that needs a second look, a bit of reimagining?
Build-A-Bear's comeback shows it's possible. Even when things look tough, innovation and focusing on your customer can lead to amazing transformations.
It really encourages you to see challenges not just as problems, but as potential starting points for something much better.
Exactly. Just like Build-A-Bear found new ways to create joy, maybe this chat has sparked some ideas for how you can navigate your own challenges, maybe build your own comeback story. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.